Welcome to Cracked with Chevonne Ariss. Today I'm joined by Neile Cooper, one of my favorite stained glass artists. Not only is she a glass artist, but she's also a jewelry maker. She's a teacher. She's now an author. She makes patterns. She's a glass installation guru and just all around an incredible artist whose bio and list of accomplishments, it was so much that it was hard for me to include all into one episode. Oh, and if you feel like her name sounds a little familiar, but you're not exactly sure from where, she's the creator of That Glass Cabin. You know the one I'm talking about. You've seen it. It's on your Pinterest and your Instagram. Join me now as we crack it all wide open. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm a huge fan of your work. I'm maybe your biggest fan. Back in 2017, I wrote you a message and I just said, hey, you don't know who I am, but I'm a huge fan of your work. I didn't hear back from you, but
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine, because then a couple years later, I did that Taste Made Home takeover, and you reached out to me and you were like, you did an amazing job. And that was like, for me, it was like an Oscar-winning actress reaching out to somebody and being like, I saw you on a reality show and I just want you to know that I'm a really big fan. Like it meant so much to me. So that was really sweet. And then a couple of weeks ago, I had an art show here in the Berkshires, and you came, you showed up and you supported. So thank you.
Yes. Well, I was thrilled to meet you. It was so awesome that I happened to be in town right when you had the show. So it was really neat to meet you and see your work in person. It's gorgeous. So
thank you. Yeah, it was great to see you too.
Yeah. And I'm thrilled about this podcast too. I had to say yes, because I'm just so excited that you're doing this.
We talked about this, but there's not a lot of content for stained glass in general. There is sort of a resurgence, I would say. The word Renaissance has been thrown around quite a bit, which I'm not sure what to make of that word, but I'll take it. Yeah, but I myself was looking for a podcast to listen to one day. I was like, I wonder if there's anything about stained glass, a little idea stirring. And I was like, I want to start a podcast. I want to talk about glass with cool people that might want to talk with me about it. And you are at the top of the list of people that I definitely want to talk to about glass.
Yay. Well, this is going to be fun.
You're not only a stained glass artist, but you're also a jewelry maker. Did the jewelry come first before stained glass?
No, stained glass definitely came first. I went to college for graphic design. And while I was there, I took a little stained glass workshop, a non-credited thing, just because I didn't want to be on the computer all day. So I took this class and loved it, loved the stained glass, and just did that. Never got a graphic design job, just stuck with the stained glass. And started doing little craft shows. And this is before Etsy was even a thing. So it was craft shows and selling to friends, and then taking little commissions here and there. People would say, can you make me a window? And I figured out, I had a local mentor, but worked with him and figured out, how to make windows and how to do larger projects. And then started doing the jewelry for fun. And then Etsy happened, and I started doing the jewelry more and more and more, because it's small, easy to ship. So it definitely worked well for Etsy. Back in the day, Etsy used to actually be cool. It was really,
I remember
stuff. Yeah, it was, everything was handmade. Everything was really personal interactions with the artists. And it was really special. I feel like it changed my life completely. So it's kind of sad to see how it's no longer all handmade things, but I still use it. So that's why I really, really got into the jewelry, because it was, easy to ship, easy to make. And I loved making it. And I really focused on it for a long time. But then I started feeling like it kind of ran its course. I'm not one who loves to do the same thing over and over again. So I was kind of getting bored with it. Wanted to get back to doing more stained glass things. So it's kind of when I built the cabin. Because
And so when you made the cabin, which, if you guys haven't seen this cabin, I mean, this this place really resonates with people. I mean, it really, really stands out as like such a fantastical fantasy, almost like it's very like fairy tale-esque glass cabin. And I read online that it's made mostly of recycled materials, correct?
Yes,
And
it's all recycled wood, lumber, and all old reclaimed window frames that are filled with my stained glass. So I knocked out all the old glass, recycled a lot of the clear glass back into the pieces. And so it's, I think it's, I don't know the exact number. It's something like 50 or more old window frames cladding the whole
wow.
thing. Yeah.
Wow. And how many square feet is the cabin?
It is. So in my town, in order to avoid having to get building permits and inspections, so anything under 100 square feet doesn't require any inspections. And building it, I had no idea if this would pass an inspection, if it's up to code. It's the ceiling, the walls, it's all glass, and not safety glass, not tempered glass. So I made it, it's 8 by 12, so it's 96 square feet. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And did you build it by yourself or did
I
you have?
built it with my boyfriend, my partner's father, my father-in-law. My partner and I are not married, but we've been together 20 something years. So I call him my father-in-law. He was a retired dentist, but really handy. Did a lot of built some furniture, just really good with tools and stuff. So he was retired, and I asked him to help me out with it, and he got so into it. He was having so much fun. He would show up every day. Home Depot was on his way here, so he would show up with, everything we needed, with all the screws and everything. And we built it over the course of a summer, a few months in the summer. We built it together. I didn't know anything about building, so it was a learning project for me.
Yeah, that was my next question. I'm like, are you handy? Was this like a first time experience for you to build something of that magnitude?
Definitely. I think I'm handy. Like, I know how to use a saw and a screwdriver and a drill, but this was definitely beyond anything I'd ever done before.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it is something. I feel like, yeah, that cabin is amazing. And is it on your property?
It is. It's in my backyard. So we have about an acre. I live in a little lake community in northern New Jersey. Most of the lots are really small, but we have this long, narrow lot that's about an acre. So it's behind the house, but it's set back a bit from the house. So you can see the house from it, but I have it aimed away towards the woods. So when you're in there, it feels like you're out in the woods. You can't really see the neighbors. But it's really just a suburban lot, and it's right behind my house. But
Yeah.
in pictures, I never show any other structures or anything, and it feels like it's out in the woods.
Yeah, it does. It feels like it's literally in a storybook. Like it does not feel like you would, you'd have to walk for miles to see the closest house, and you'd probably be wearing a pinafore if you were walking through the woods with like a satchel full of salted meats and maybe some bread to get you like it very much takes you to a different place and a different time. Now, what do you do with the cabin when you're not photographing it? Do you make stained glass inside there?
I'll do some things out there. I do a lot of drawing, designing, sketching out there. And I'll do maybe some foiling, but not the messy glass work. I don't do any cutting or soldering or anything, because it is a small space.
Yeah.
And I don't really want it to be a workspace that much. It's more of a hangout space. I read, I sleep out there quite a bit when it's not too hot and not too cold. There's no climate control. There's no heat or AC. So, but I do love sleeping out there. And just hang out with friends, drink some beers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it really is like, it's like a tree house for adults.
Yeah. I wish it was a tree house. That would be the dream. That's maybe the next project sometime down the road. I would love if it was up in the trees.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that would be really cool. So the cabin, did you make the cabin and then was that kind of like the catalyst for you to be just focusing only on stained glass? Was that kind of where you felt like you had like a stained glass breakthrough?
It really is. I mean, I still kept doing the jewelry for a while, but But by doing the cabin, before the cabin, any stained glass commissions I had, it was whatever the client wanted. It would be a Frank Lloyd Wright window style window, and then a Victorian, and then whatever. And I love that. That's fine. I was adapting to that. But now that I've done the cabin and it sort of went viral and so many people have seen it, people now come to me for that type of work. And that, of course, because it's, you know, what I made, because it's the dream project. It's in the style that I feel personal about. It's in, you know, it's me. So now people come to me for that, which is amazing. It's completely changed the type of work I do. So
have you ever had anybody show up to the cabin, to your property, unannounced?
Yeah, I have a couple times. It's awkward, but it's okay, you know, it's all right if they want to come.
People are
crazy.
I
did have this one lovely couple come by. They didn't come unannounced, but they were in my town unannounced. They said, "Hey, we happen to be in your town. We really, really want to see the last cabin. Can we come by?" And I said, "Sure." And they get here and they're traveling from Utah. And
to see the cabin.
The cabin. They were doing so they were awesome. They were sweethearts. So they decided to do a little road trip. So I get this message and they're down the road. They're at a restaurant down the road. So I had to say, yeah, come on over. Yeah. It's very awkward, but they ended up being the nicest people in the world. And they invited me. We vacation in Utah. They invited me to come visit them. This was right before COVID, sadly. So we didn't keep in touch, but next time I'm in Utah, I probably will.
If you're listening.
Yeah.
Neile needs a place to stay in Utah. If any listeners are in Utah and have an extra room, she's in the market.
Well, this gal had a house right on Brighton, out in Brighton ski area. So
nice. Yeah. We need more friends like that.
Yeah.
So do you find yourself doing more commissions now, or are you able to sort of spend most of your time in the studio being creative and making things you like?
Yes. So for a while after building the cabin, I was getting really fun, smaller commissions and really enjoying them. If you follow me, you've probably seen some good ones. I did a huge peacock, which was really, really fun. Some other really great projects that came from people finding the cabin. And then also I've been able to just do projects similar to the windows that are in the cabin, but just pieces for sale. Previously I'd been selling a lot of smaller things, little sun catchers, smaller panels, but because of the attention that came from the cabin and reaching a wider audience through Instagram, I am able to sell, larger, more expensive pieces that feel more like pieces of fine art than craft.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to be kind of moving into that area of it feeling more like art.
Yeah. I love that. I say that a lot about my work too, is that I'm trying to elevate the conversation I'm having with my viewer or person whoever's looking at my work. I really want it to transcend the craft realm and kind of be more fine art, like, let's take it up a notch. I'm not making crafts, I'm making art.
Yeah.
And I think you see that with your stuff too.
I completely see it in your work. That's why I'm drawn to your work. It feels elevated. It's even in your color palettes and your, the abstract exploration of not doing, my work's very illustrative, I feel, but yours is just the abstract and the shapes and colors. So yeah, I definitely feel like you're sort of in the elevating it from craft. Not that there's anything wrong with just doing crafty things either. There's a place for that, but I've been doing it so long. I've been doing stained glass for 25, 26 years. I'm happy that personally I'm able to have an evolution within the craft and within the art.
Yeah.
So about 2 years ago, just about 2 years ago, I got an email from Rob Samuels at Maker's Mark.
Yeah. I have so many questions about that. And I'm
cheers.
cheers.
I
My
have a
Maker's
mint
Mark.
julep here.
Yes. I'm just drinking mine on ice, but it is quite delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Maker's Mark.
So I got an email from Rob Samuels, and I was like, okay, who's Rob Samuels? So I look him up. He's the third generation distiller at Maker's Mark. He's the CEO of the company.
He's the guy.
Yeah, he's the guy. So I'm like, okay, he's interested in having me do. He saw the cabin online somewhere, Instagram, or actually his wife did. His wife's really into art. So is he, and saw it and just reached out and said, let's do a project together. So I said, of course. So he invited me down and we toured the grounds. There was talk of doing a little cabin like mine, a little tasting room that would be out in the woods, which I was really excited about. But we eventually.
Where is this? Where was the tour?
They're in Kentucky. They're in Loretta, Kentucky. It's about an hour south of Louisville.
Okay.
And it's a gorgeous campus where the distillery is. So Maker's Mark is goes 3 generations back, but the Samuels family goes, I think, 7 or 8 generations back in the same spot in Kentucky. There's been distilling on this property for at least 100 years. It goes back quite a ways. So they're redoing the bottling line. And so this is where we ended up settling on where my piece would go. It's going to be the entrance to the bottling line.
Wow.
It's a glass vestibule, almost like a shoebox out of glass, and it's going to be covered in my stained glass. So it's a huge project. So the front wall will all be glass and the side wall will be glass. And then you'll enter, and there will be some displays, which also will have some stained glass on them. It's going to be a lot of stained glass in this room. And then you'll walk through this vestibule and enter another door to go into the bottling line. And the bottling line is crazy. It's just this cacophony of noise, and there's bourbon flowing all over the place, and you can smell it. And if you're familiar with Maker's Mark, the bottle has this red dripping wax on it. They hand dip all of those bottles. So there's workers in there dipping the bottle, and there's just wax all over the place. So it's this really, really crazy visual space to be in. So so you're going to walk through my stained glass on your way into there, if you are there taking a tour.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so did he say, I have an idea, but I don't know exactly what I want? Because you guys obviously landed on that after you started speaking, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talked about a whole bunch of different ideas. I did a couple of presentations. And then we settled on this being the space, and they did not give me much of a creative brief to follow. We decided that this piece would honor Margie Samuels, who's Rob Samuels, the current CEO, is his grandmother and the co-founder of the brand. Margie Samuels came up with the idea, the name Maker's Mark. She came up with the red dripping wax and the shape of the bottle and the logos. Before bourbon companies were hiring PR departments and graphic design departments, she did all of this work. And she's recognized as the first person to invent bourbon hospitality. So they're the first brand that invited people to come visit and tour the distillery. And they've really, really made that a part of their brand. And it's really thanks to Margie. Now there's the whole bourbon trail that you can go and tour all these different distilleries, but Maker's Mark was really the first one that did that. So this project is, the whole theme is to honor Margie. So throughout the design, there's all these references to the things that she brought to the brand. There's obviously a lot of like red dripping wax, and to kind of reference the hospitality aspect of it, I've got depression glass plates kind of running through it. Like I'm using the whole plates, and they'll also add like a lot of texture and sparkle. And
are they almost like big rondelles?
Yeah, they kind of look like rondelles, or like jewels. There's also a lot of jewels in there, so because we wanted a lot of sparkle, a lot of light moving around. Yeah, so those are really cool. And they're just, the piece is copper foil. And those just get copper foiled and soldered in just like a piece of glass. And they're incorporated. And then all of this is surrounded by a lot of, the concept is almost as if the structure is decorated for a party in Margie's honor. So it's sort of these buntings, and lots of florals. I love what you see going on right now in floral design with these big, huge floral installations with clusters of floral flowers and swags of flowers. So I was inspired by that and kind of brought that into the stained glass. And then all of the components of these decorations are bourbon related or related to what Margie brought to the brand. So there's lots of oak because the bourbon is aged in oak and acorns, and that also sort of refers to the generational aspect of it, that the acorn is sort of like the next generation taking over to run the brand.
And this is all stuff that you thought of.
Yeah, just by visiting there and soaking up everything I could there and researching bourbon, researching the brand, I just wanted to bring, my work, they came to me because of the work that I do, which is a lot of nature themed. So I kind of took that as the cue to like keep those nature themes, but have them relate to bourbon or have them relate to Margie Samuels. So, so it does that. And it's not so literal. It's not just like, this is a bourbon barrel. There's wheat and there's barley, and there's oak, but it's not like super literal.
Yeah.
Which I think is so great. So the people walking through can pick up on things here and there, whatever they relate to, instead of it being like, this is the story of
right. It's not
so
just like a portrait of her and like, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So when so they say, we want you to make this big piece. We have a couple thoughts. Come on down, come look at the space. Tell us what you think. And then you guys land on the vestibule and sort of like square footage. Now, I think probably a lot of people who are listening to this podcast will be stained glass artists. And one of the hardest things about being a stained glass artist, at least for me, is figuring out how to price my items for commissions specifically. My mother-in-law is the one who taught me how to do stained glass, and she has a formula that she uses in terms of like materials, obviously. And then she has like, she pays herself a certain amount per hour, which is hard, I feel like, at the jump sometimes with projects, because you don't know how long it's going to take you, especially for something that grand. So what's your process? Like, how do you price a commission? Because you guys probably talked about what you wanted first, got all that locked in, and then you talked about money. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Well, with Maker's Mark specifically, we went really far into this project before we even discussed money. And finally, and they never asked, they never gave a budget. Finally, I was like, okay, we're gonna have to sit down and figure this out. So you're so right. It really is hard figuring out pricing, even for a small job. It's hard
because
to
also
know.
too, you have to take into consideration like that wow factor, that's an element too. Like, you might like be like, okay, I'm going to guesstimate this is going to take me 100 hours. Let's just say, I'm sure it would take you more than that, but just for ease of numbers. And I pay myself $50 an hour, but then you finish it and it's so grand and it's going to be there for a long time. Like, you want to like add like a grand tax on there too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was so hard with them because I didn't know when I gave them the price if they were going to be like, you're crazy, that's an insane number, or if they'd be like, we're getting a bargain. I didn't even have a ballpark.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like so right across on campus, there's a Chihuly.
Yes.
But he's like super famous. He has a museum in Seattle. He has a glass blowing school in Seattle. So like, that's that. Of course, he has that wow tax in there, that grandeur tax, because he's famous.
Yeah.
And it's so grand. But here I am being like, well, I need to do that too. I need to pretend like I'm Chihuly and come in with
you gotta like fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Because I don't want them to be like, wait, she's charging what? So the way we went about it, my partner Rob, he's acting as project manager on the whole project for me, and sort of has been through the past year my studio manager, which is so great having him help. He's really analytical, loves making a database for anything. And he loves doing accounting and making sure everything's checked and
Oh,
balanced.
we all need a Rob. If you're listening, which I'm sure you will, Neile's gonna pass on my phone number because I need you.
Yeah, he is the best. I literally would not be able to do this project without him. Because I'm the opposite. I don't think that way at all. It takes me weeks to return an email. It takes me forever if I don't have auto pay on bills, they don't get paid. I just don't care about that stuff at all. And he actually enjoys it. So I don't even feel bad when I say, hey, figure out how to get this, whatever, figure out the square footage on this or whatever. So the way we did it is, for this big project, he made a database and thought of everything we were going to need and every expense and estimated, how much foil, how many pounds of solder, how much glass. And I kind of did the same thing, just with my loosey-goosey feeling of years of experience I've had pricing things. I kind of have a square footage, and then I kind of adjust that square foot price based on how complicated it's going to be, how much time I think it's going to take, which is hard, of course, hard to estimate, but
so hard.
So I kind of went on the highest end of my square foot price. And he did all this complicated database, and we both estimated how much time it would take. And I think he came at it from a couple angles, which he can do with his database. He said, if it's going to take X amount of time, how much money do you need to earn in this amount of time? Need to earn so that you can live, and what's the ideal income to have for this amount of time, and kind of work backwards from that to get the expenses, to see what profit there would be after all of the expenses, which he tallied up. So I don't even know everything that he did, but long story short, we came up with a very, very similar number. Me doing just the square footage and my rough idea of.
Got it. Okay, so you guys were both working separately and then came together. It's like a reality show where you hold up the card to see if somebody else has the same answer.
Yeah, we were like, let's sit down and have a meeting and figure this out, because we need to get a price to them so we know that this is even happening. And we came up with really, really close in numbers. So because of that, we felt good. We felt like we're in the right place. And then whatever the reaction was great to us. They were like, yeah, sure. But whatever their private conversation about it was, if they were like, she's crazy, we're really spending a lot on this, or she's crazy, we're getting this for a song, whatever they felt about it doesn't matter, because we did enough thought into it, enough time, that we feel like we're getting paid well, making a profit, and and we're getting paid enough that I can buy this cool depression glass and I'm using a lot of Lambert's glass in there, which is very expensive. And so we kind of factored that in too. It's not even like I want to get paid because I want to get paid and live large off of it. I wanted to get paid enough that I could make it the way I wanted to make it.
Yeah. I had a recent commission inquiry. I don't know if it's going to go forward or not, but I went to her house and I took measurements of the window, and she had a list of specific colors that she wanted. She wanted 8 colors in it. Big requests for how it was all going to be. And it was a big piece. So I would have to go buy those, that glass specifically. I don't have pieces that big of that color. And then I sent her the quote, and she responded with, wow, well, if I was thinking it was going to be this, it was half what it was. I think that that's something worth mentioning, is that people don't realize sometimes, how expensive glass is, especially in bulk, big sheets of it, if you're very specific about the kind of glass that you want. But you mentioned copper foil. That's not cheap. Solder, that's not cheap. I did this piece. I'm pointing at it like everybody can see it, but it's 6 feet by 2 feet. It was in the show. And I used 6 spools of solder. All the materials for stained glass are very expensive. It is not an inexpensive hobby. It's not as simple as like, not that this can be, I know there's expensive paint, but it's not a piece of canvas and paint and then you're done. So yeah.
Yeah. And glass can be really expensive and it can range quite a bit. So that's something to definitely think about when you're, you can't just have a flat square foot price
No.
that you calculate for people.
So you calculated your price in as, so this is interesting to me. So you did it folded into the entire quote. Did you itemize it at all for them? Like, did you say like, these are for my materials and this is for me? You just said one
Nope.
number.
Yeah, just one number. They didn't ask for it. We just gave them the one number. The only thing that's not included in that is delivery, installation. They're going to be fabricating a curtain wall that's going to house the stained glass. So I'm going to be working with the people who fabricate that to do the installation. So travel costs for bringing it down there and packing and shipping costs, we did not put into the quote. And we just wrote in our contract that would be actual costs. So we will just show receipts for any of those actual costs.
And how do you ship that down? Do you have it in like
we haven't figured that out yet.
Okay.
We have not figured it out. Rob just built some crates that are perfect. So it's all constructed in panels, 22-inch panels. So it's not like we're shipping this whole room down there or the big wall. It's all in panels that will go into this curtain wall. So it's actually not that complicated of a build. It's just 68 of these panels, which is a lot.
Yes.
But it's just building 22-inch square windows. So it's manageable. So Rob just built some crates that will house, I think, 6 or 8 of them, depending on how thick they are with the glass inserts, the depression glass that's in there. So those crates will go probably in a moving truck. We'll probably hire someone to do it. Insurance is really challenging when you're shipping glass. A lot of people won't insure glass. So we found a while ago for shipping other projects, we found a third party, the Collectibles Society, I think it's called. Rob found this for me. They insure for glass because UPS doesn't, FedEx doesn't, DHL does not insure for glass specifically.
So with this many panels, you hired some people to help you, I'm assuming?
I did. It's the first time ever I've had anyone working with me, working on my projects. So it's been a learning process for me because I'm a little bit of a control freak about my work. So it was difficult, but it's also been great. It's so great. I have 4 artists who come in just a couple days a week. So I have a couple days by myself where I'm kind of prepping for them to come. I'm doing all the cutting because cutting's my favorite part. I love selecting the glass and cutting the glass and laying it out and making sure it's all looking the way I want it to look. And then the rest of the process, I'm happy to, now that I've gotten used to it, I'm happy to pass on and let other people get their hands on it. So a couple days a week, I am selecting glass, which can take a really long time too. There's so many colors in this piece, and I can spend an hour just debating if this droopy thing is orange or red or yellow.
Same.
So that is long and slow. So it's not great to have employees around waiting for me to pick a color.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I actually always have that like a really hard time when because people ask often like, well, how much do how long does it take you for you to make a piece? And I dread that question because I feel like unlike my mother-in-law, who's very like Rob in terms of like spreadsheets, and she's very calculated and a very like a big, she's got a math mind. One piece that, let's just say, 10 by 10, it can take me like 30 minutes to be like, I know what I want, like, get it done. And then the next one, it'll take me like a full day in the studio, just standing in front of glass and like picking things up and laying them down and being like, no, that's not right. Just the selection of glass is the longest step for me too.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes it even requires going for a walk or going for a swim, leaving, coming back.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the answer is revealed after you get out of the space for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely is challenging. But
how did you find the people that are working for you?
So I was worried. I was really worried that I wasn't going to find anyone, and I needed help.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a
So
lot of foiling.
yes. And I've done most of the foiling. I like foiling because I just sit in front of the TV. It's like knitting or something. So I've done most of the foiling, but I have had help with foiling. Lots of help with grinding because I do not like grinding, and help with soldering, which I was most nervous about because
Yeah.
um, I aim for really, really nice, neat, clean soldering, and I didn't know if I'd be able to
You
get people.
have some of the cleanest soldering I have seen. I'm such a huge fan of your soldering, so I can imagine that would be real tough to find somebody that could like present as you.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely was nervous about it. But then I also dialed back my perfection a little bit. It didn't need to be perfect, perfect, perfect. Some of these pieces, the wall is 10 feet high. So the panels that are up there at 10 feet, they're not going to be looked at very. I'm asking for close to perfect, but I'm also releasing a little bit of the reins. So Instagram was how I found people. So I didn't know if I was going to find people, and then I put a post on Instagram saying I was hiring, and I got way more responses than I thought I would. So many
Wow.
responses.
And they had to be local.
Yes. Well, I had this idea that I would maybe have visiting artists. People come for a week and work and then leave. That was an idea because I didn't think I'd find enough local people. But then I did. I had more than enough local people.
Like a
But
residency.
yeah. So I was thinking just like week-long residencies. It's most of the project is getting done summertime, so I thought that might be easier for people. So I had this one gal, Lauren Barnes. She's Poplar Brook Arts on Instagram, and I think that's her business name, Poplar Brook. She's down in Maryland. She had previously come up to visit for a workshop, and I knew I really, really liked her work. So I invited her to come up for a week, and she was great. It was like the first week that I had people here helping. So we really got a lot done. So she was not my only visiting resident. The rest are local and they're wonderful. It's so great. One gal lives right down the street. So even if I just needed like a box of stuff foiled, she can come pick it up, foil it, bring it back.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That sounds
she's
like a
great.
dream to have a box show up with foiled pieces. For me, I'm like, is this Santa Claus?
Is that your least favorite part, foiling?
I always start, I mean, for big projects. I don't know. I feel like honestly, my least favorite thing is doing one thing for too long. You know what I mean? So when
Yep.
I start grinding, I'm like, I can get down with this. I'm feeling meditative, like this like little dance I'm doing with my hands and pressure with the grind. Like I'm into it. And then like on piece like, 7 or 8, I'm like, oh, just get it done. Like, and the
Yeah.
same thing with foiling. I'm just like, I'm ready for like the next step.
Yeah, I understand that. But it's one of the fun things about stained glass though, is that you do get to change it up step by
Yeah.
step. My least favorite, I think, is soldering. So I'm super happy to have help with that.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so interesting.
I get pretty bored. I mean,
Hmm.
I get bored grinding too, but I mean, I like every step. I
Yeah.
obviously I wouldn't have stuck with stained glass for my whole career, but I'm really thrilled to have help with soldering
Yeah.
because it's slow. It takes time, and this gal Carissa, who lives not too far from here, she is hot trash glass on Instagram.
I
She,
thought
she
for
and
a
her
second you were
sister.
just saying she was hot trash.
She
My
is.
name's
She is
Krista. She's
hot
hot trash. She is
trash.
not, it wasn't good.
She is amazing. She's so great. She's so fast and she's just like works happily, quietly, just gets stuff done. So it's thrilling that I have her help, and another gal that took a workshop with me. So it's kind of cool that I had met a lot of the people who responded. Most of the people who ended up coming to work. Well, I have 4, and 3 of them I had met previously just from workshops or an open studio that I had here. So I kind of was familiar with their work a little bit.
So they were stained glass artists and then they took your workshop. Because
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I teach too. And a lot of people I wouldn't be like,
I know. Yeah, I've done a bunch of beginner courses, and a lot of the times when I'm teaching, it's just people who just want a fun weekend thing. They
Yep.
don't want to do it. But then there are the other people who are like, no, I really want to pursue this art form and take the class and then continue with it, and
Yeah.
have impressed me. So, the people that I have coming here have done more than just a workshop with me,
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
making their own work. And so it's going well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So now, and this is probably, did you factor in the help with their salaries in the budget?
Yeah, with Rob's handy spreadsheet, we were able to just determine like how many hours they're working, how that cuts into profit, and how many hours it saves me, So he kind of has the whole budget broken down by like man hours, and the timeline broken down by man hours, whether it's, 4 girls working one day or one girl working 4 days. He can
Right.
kind of like adjust by that. And so far we're under budget for employees, which is good because that means I can your dog just walked in.
Yeah. I know. He was sleeping the whole time, and I was like, it's supposed to be so quiet in here. And I was like, oh God, he's in here. He's been sleeping there the whole time.
Oh, sweet. So we're under budget for employees, which is so awesome because now I know that like if I'm feeling tired, if I know that there's room for me to have more help, which is really comforting because I've been working really long days on this and not taking much time off. So I might be handing more work off to my girls.
Yeah. So let's go over their handles real quick so people can keep an eye on them.
Okay.
They have
I've
hot
got
trash.
a hot trash glass. That's Carissa. She does really cute pet portraits. And lately she's been doing really interesting things with copper foil overlay. So definitely check out her work. It's really cool. Early girl glass is Jodi. She's right down the street. She doesn't have a ton of experience. She's doing lots of cute sun catchers and things. So Michi is, I think it's Paper Michi, Michi. She used to do a lot of paper cutting. So I think that's why she's got that old handle of Paper Michi. She should change it to Glass Michi because she's doing really cool glass work, really interesting personal projects. And she's been a real help for me. She's in Jersey City. So she's traveling a little bit, about an hour to come out, just 1 or 2 days a week for me. And then Allie, who is doing really interesting work too. And her handle is So Told Creative, all one word, So Told Creative.
Cool.
So, so they're my team and they feel like a team and they are so enthusiastic. It's great. I think they all are not really coming here for the job, for the paycheck.
Right.
I'm thrilled to be able to make the project larger and pay people and get them the experience of working in the studio with me. But I think they're all really here for the experience, which is so great. They are just like soaking up everything they can and working really hard for me. So I'm really happy to have them. Hopefully we'll all get to go down to Kentucky at some point if we have a party to, reveal the space or even to celebrate the conclusion.
You guys all definitely should go there for that. I feel like 100%.
It'll be fun. They're fun girls too, so it'll be a big party. We haven't been drinking the Maker's Mark in the studio yet, so we're about to finish. So there's one long wall and then one short wall, and we're almost finished with the long wall. So we'll have to have a couple of cocktails to celebrate that.
Yes, I like that, milestones. So you're on this big project with Maker's Mark. You just finished another huge project, or are you finished with it?
It is almost finished. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're talking about the book.
We're talking about the book. Yes.
A book. It's called Kicking Glass, and it's going to come out in mid-March. I think the 15th or something is the publication date. So the manuscript was delivered in April. A couple weeks before the manuscript was due, I went down to Kentucky for the final presentation of the design for this project. So March was crazy for me because I was, getting towards the end of the book with manuscript being due and getting ready to go present this scale design for the Makers project.
That sounds terrifying.
It was a lot all at once. It was a lot of big scary things all at once. Like I've now been a couple years of constantly being outside of my comfort zone with work. And it's great. Things get easier and easier each time you have to do it. Every time I have to have a Zoom call with an architect or with an editor, it's easier, but it's definitely not in my comfort zone. So, but so the book is in the editing process. The manuscript has been in. We got one draft of it back from the graphic designer. So we've seen kind of how it's going to look like, and we had to give back our comments to them, to the graphic design, so they can change things. It's so interesting because this graphic designer doesn't know how to do stained glass.
Right.
So
well, and also, some graphic design, and you've also been selling your designs, your patterns.
Yeah. So it's actually Rob that does all the patterns for me. I design everything by hand, completely by hand, pencil and then marker.
Same. So how did you even come to the idea of making a book about stained glass? I mean, it makes sense that it would be about stained glass, but like, how did you were already teaching, so it's sort of an extension of that.
Yeah. Well, you probably know, and most of the listeners that do stained glass probably know, that there are no recent stained glass books. There hasn't been one for years. So, I mean, the knowledge doesn't go stale. It's the same process, but the projects, just the look of it, they feel very dated, every book that's out there. So, so that's really where the idea came from, just seeing that there was a hole in the market, that there was a need for it. So I worked up a book proposal. I did a ton of research, just hours and hours and hours of just researching, like, how do you write a book? How do you get a book published? What's the process? And I learned that for nonfiction books, what you do is write a book proposal, which is a pretty complex document. I think mine ended up being something like 30 pages of author profile and platform, like basically selling to them why you're the right person to write this book. Yeah. and you need actual data in there. So, I mean, you need anything you've ever had published, all of your follower accounts on social media, the actual numbers, because they want to know that you're going to bring people to buy this book. So that goes in the book proposal. And then also your plans for marketing it, how committed you're going to be to helping sell it. So you need to write whatever ideas you have for where you think you can speak about it or do demos, or how much you want to be involved in selling the thing, because they really want you, the publishing companies really want you to be an active participant and you to bring people.
Well, you probably have more followers than them.
Yeah, I do. That was really the only thing that flushed out that section for me, because I haven't been published in other places. I don't, do a lot of traveling and lecturing. I've done some, but so really just my Instagram account was the only, and it's not even that huge, but it at least was some way of proving to them that I have a platform. So that, and then you need in the proposal comparative titles, which is it's all a very financial thing on the publisher's side. They just want to know that they're going to sell the book. They want to know before they commit to making the book that it's going to sell. So you want to show to them other books similar, and they can look up how much those books have sold.
How is that, since there haven't been any books similar?
Well, it was challenging, because you're supposed to be, from everything I researched, you're supposed to be including books that have been published in the last 4 or 5 years, and there is nothing. So I listed a few of the more recent books. And then I found a couple books in the how-to craft genre that I really loved, that I really thought were beautiful, and, similar in my general idea of what page count, photography count would be the dream book for me. And I listed those.
So
just to help give potential publishers a sense of what I was aiming for. And then also in the proposal, you need table of contents. So you don't have to write the whole book, but you need a pretty good idea of what the book is going to be. So table of contents, annotated with lots of detail about what's in each chapter, and then the sample chapter. So I wrote up the entire chapter on cutting glass, just so they get a feel for how you write, make sure that you can write, and then also a sample project. So I wrote up a whole project step by step with photography, so that they could get a really good sense that I'm able to teach a project just with words, not.
And this is before you get approved, right? All of this is even before they say yes.
This is before I've even reached out to any publisher, editor, anything. So this is what you would do if you have an idea and you're going to reach out. There's two paths you can take. You can send this out to agents, or you send it out to publishers. I've finished this thing up with no input from any professionals and sent it out to a whole bunch of agents, because I figured it'd be nicer to have an agent. They can negotiate your deal. They can put it in front of the best eyes that will have the best chance of wanting to buy the book. I got nothing back from any agents. And then I sent it directly to a couple publishers and had some chats, some interest, some back and forth, but essentially nothing really panned out.
After all that work, were you
after all that work, I put so much into it, and I was like, okay, so maybe this isn't a good idea. And then Maker's Mark calls, and this project comes up, and I'm like, okay, let's shelve the whole book idea. I don't really have time to do it anyway. And then I get a call from Claire at Bloomsbury Books, saying, hey, have you ever thought about writing a stained glass book? Got an email out of the blue.
You're like, well, actually, let me shoot this over to you real quick. And she's probably like, her mind is blown because all the work's been done.
Her mind was blown. She's like, this has never happened before. Just this serendipitous thing where, like, here you go, here's the proposal. But of course it doesn't end there. She had to like the proposal, and then she had to put it in front of her editorial team to see if they all like the proposal. And then they have to put it in front of the financial team to see if they think that the book will actually make money. So it was another, month of sort of waiting on their meetings to see if they wanted to buy the book. And then finally they did make an offer. They said they wanted to do the book, which is so exciting. But then you're like, okay, so now I have to negotiate this offer, and I don't have an agent.
Here we go again with the figuring out the numbers.
Yes, it was crazy. I did all the photography for it too, because there's so much photography. I would have had to have a live-in photographer to take every step of all the process. So I did that. So I had to, come up with a photography budget and the illustration budget. So it was scary. It was very, very out of my element of just.
Yeah. What do you have any resources you can share with people in terms of, like, is it just Google when you're like, I don't know how to do this next thing? Do you just Google it and then kind of like follow leads there, or?
Yeah, a lot of Googling things. Yeah. And then so our publisher, I think there's something similar in the United States, but because our Bloomsbury Publishing is based in England, they have offices in New York, but the contract was through England. I ended up joining the British Society of Authors, which is this amazing organization. If you join them, they will look over any contract and look for problems, let you know if there's anything that you're not missing out on. You need to have a contract in process to join the society, or have been published in order to join the society. But because I had the contract, I was able to join. And so I had them look over the contract, which was amazing to have their help. I don't know what I would have done without it. I would have probably just signed the thing and just hoped for the best, but they had really great advice for me. So that was a really good resource. And I'm sure there's something similar within the United States. That was good. And then just a lot of, there's tons of information out there about the publishing industry, tons of blogs I found, and it was great. But I would have loved an agent to help me through that whole process. But I don't think there's a lot of money in how-to books, in craft and how-to books. I don't think they're never going to become bestsellers. They're not going to be.
Not yet. Not yet.
But you know that they'll always have somewhat limited audience compared to like, I don't know,
Right.
a
Like a
thriller.
nonfiction. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I don't think there are many agents who sort of specialize in
Yeah.
that type of book. I wasn't able to find anybody. Um, but it would have been nice to have someone holding my hand through the process.
Yeah.
But so I got it done. Again, Rob was instrumental in getting this book done. He
Dang, that Rob pulling through again.
yes. So he's a grammar nerd. He's been tutoring SATs for 20 something years. So he is like, he's got the grammar down. So I could write a little more stream of consciousness, hand it over to him, have him make it all work.
Yeah.
It was amazing having his help on that. To the point where I'm trying to figure out some credit for him, like short of co-writer, but something where he gets credited. He was that involved in it.
Yeah.
For me.
Definitely a dedication.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But something a little even more than that. So he could maybe something that could go on a resume. Something.
I don't know, buy your house a new roof or something.
If everyone buys the book, maybe. The book's going to be really, really cool. So the first half is just all of the instructions, the tools, how to use the tools, just basically how to do stained glass, all copper foil method. We didn't get into lead. There just wasn't space for it. And I do lead work, but I mostly do copper foil. So I wanted to stick with what I really, really know and what people know me for. And then the second half is a whole bunch of fun projects. Some maybe that you've seen, spin-offs on things that you maybe have seen me make before, and then some like completely brand new.
Yeah.
And then also scattered through the book, I wanted to bring in more voices than just mine. So throughout the book, there's a couple featured artist pages, which was thrilling to me to be able to reach out to these other artists and say, hey, do you want to be in my book? Will you help me make this even better book? So that's a real treat for me to have these other artists included.
That's awesome. That's how I feel with this podcast. I feel like I have this project, and it's given me like a real like good reason to reach out to people who I really admire and be like, I want you to be a part of this. That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's kind of solidifying this community that sort of exists on Instagram or in DMs, but kind of like bringing that social media community into like real life things. It's really cool.
Yeah, totally. So where are you at right now with the book? So it's done.
It's done. We're waiting for one more. So the revisions we made with the graphic designer are just certain things like, like I said, because she doesn't know stained glass. So we have the steps listed out and the batch of photos that go with those steps. And then some of those were mixed up because, how would she know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
When I'm just like showing how to hold a glass cutter, for example, or something like that.
Right.
So we had some revisions with her. We're waiting for those revisions back. And we're also waiting for the copy editing back.
Right.
And then we review the copy editing, and then it's done. Then it goes to print. Yeah. So it should be going to print. I think they said September. Apparently a lot of things are going really weird in the publishing industry right now because of that ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal.
Oh, yes.
Apparently all books are behind because of that ship, and probably some COVID things too. But so everything's behind schedule. So they're trying to move up the schedule on their end so it gets to print sooner, so that it'll get released on a release date, which is March.
Okay, March.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody set your calendar. Can we pre-order the book anywhere?
Yes. Yeah. So pre-orders, we haven't figured it out yet, but it should be the end of September. So kind of coming up, not too long. So end of September, we'll do a cover release. I've seen the cover, but I haven't seen it final. It's cute. It's really cute. So I will, of course, let everyone know. I hope you'll all pre-order because I think it's really important for sales.
It is.
It shows the publisher that there's going to be interest, so they'll back it more and hopefully, do a lot more push to sell and maybe get me out there traveling a little bit more to push it if you do a lot of pre-orders. So I hope listeners will pre-order. I've gotten such enthusiasm about it so far. So many people have told me they're excited about it. So.
I'm excited about it. Can I have a signed copy?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
we're going to figure out how to do a signed copies for the pre-orders, either shipped from here or maybe shipped from a local bookshop or something.
Okay,
So
cool.
all of that I'll let y'all know about that as much as I can.
And what do you think, what was your most gratifying step of making this book?
Of the book,
Yeah.
well, it was really good working with Rob on this.
Mm-hmm.
I know I keep talking about him. It's been amazing working with him on it because we've been together 20 years, 21 years. Our professional lives have always been really separate. He's never really been involved in my stained glass work or anything. So it was a learning process. There were a lot of fights and tears.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time we got to the end, we were working together so well, and it was really great. It was like it kind of brought our relationship to a new place. So that was very gratifying. Yeah.
I love that. I work with obviously, you guys won't see this part, but my husband was on here with us before we started recording, like helping me with all the tech stuff. And so that gives me hope. We're still in the stage of being like, I don't know if we can do this together, but yeah, that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely one of my favorite artists, but do you have a favorite artist?
Stained glass or anything?
Open-ended.
Well, in stained glass, I don't know if you're familiar with Theodore Ellison.
No.
His stuff, I just love his work. I absolutely love his work. He's on Instagram. I think it's Theodore Ellison Designs. He's in California. I think he's in like Pasadena. He's wherever they have all those green houses and those craftsman homes, and he does that beautiful craftsman style work. His stuff's just so perfect to me. A lot of natural elements, but stylized. And he does a lot of work also with other craftspeople, furniture makers and carpenters and architects. So he's very integrated into these beautiful handmade homes.
Incredible.
So I love him. I'm also really lately been into, and I posted about this on Instagram, I think it's Eyvand Earle. I think it's pronounced Eyvand. He worked for Disney. He's passed, I think, in the 70s, but he worked for Disney throughout his whole career and did all the background scenes. But he also, did his own paintings, and then they publish all of those background scenes of those Disney movies, like Sleeping Beauty and stuff. They're just so beautiful, and they're so stylized and sort of, I don't know, look him up there. I've really been into him lately.
I will. That's so cool.
Yeah, his stuff is just really, I feel like it would translate really great into stained glass too, because it's a lot of beautiful shapes, creating a scene. So yeah, that's a couple people I'm really into.
Yeah, I love that. This has been an incredibly busy year for you. Like, you have really just thrown yourself into it. You're hustling so hard. I'm so proud of you for everything that you're doing. What are your 5 to 10 year goals? What do you think? Where do you see yourself going from here? Because you're doing some pretty big stuff.
I know it has been a lot the past few years. I'd actually love to get back to just making a beautiful couple of pieces, maybe going more the fine art route, and maybe gallery show, a whole show of pieces. I would love to. I've never gone that way in my career. I've sold at shops, little things, but I'd maybe just make a collection of just work that I want to make and not do commission for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I would love that after this project. I'd also love to travel a whole bunch after this project, maybe do some residencies where you can just, I've been keeping a collection of all these cool places that do residencies where you can just focus on your project, just be in a beautiful place and focus on your work. So I'd love to do that over the next few years. Yeah. So I don't have any big lofty goals about projects. It's just a bit more about getting back to just the work that just comes out of me without a client.
Yeah. Kind of full circle.
Yeah. And then see what happens with that. Maybe, of course, I'll continue to take commissions, but just kind of.
Yeah. I love that. I love the full circleness of it all. So you told us a few of your favorite artists. Is there anybody out there that you want to nominate to be on the podcast, or who you just want to talk about their work?
Yeah, I think that do you know Patrick Hurley? He's Pizza Donkey on Instagram.
Yeah, I think I do actually.
I think he would be great. I've watched him do a couple like IG lives where he speaks really well about pricing, and he speaks really well about um originality, not copying.
Yeah.
He can be blunt, but I mean, some people need to hear it. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't just
I mean, that's the thing, right? With Instagram specifically is that everybody has your portfolio right in their pocket, and it's good to share your work, but it comes with a dark side of it too. And a big part of
yeah.
that is the
I mean, a photo of a piece is essentially the pattern of a
Yep.
piece for
Yep.
stained glass, so it's not that hard to just copy it. And he has a lot to say about that. And his work is really interesting. His work feels like no one else's. It's his. It's just kind of comes from his brain. So I think he would be a really great guest. He'd have a lot to contribute. I also think perhaps Flannery Cronin from Friend of All Glass.
She's coming.
Is she?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
I spoke with her on the phone the other day.
Awesome. Because I feel like she will speak really well. She has a lot of experience selling. I think she can speak really a lot to the business side of it. She knows wholesale. She knows pricing for wholesale and having a storefront, and then also she has just an interesting creative journey and such a clear focus and a clear product line that's so identifiable as hers. So I think that'll be a fun one. I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Well, Patrick, if you're listening, you've been summoned. So Neile, tell people where they can find you.
Well, on Instagram, I'm Neile Cooper. It's Neile Cooper, all one word. My website is Glass Cabin Studio. That needs an overhaul. It hasn't been updated in a long time, but that's my website. And there's a email contact link through there.
Come on, Rob. Rob, are you listening?
Yeah, that's his next project. As soon as he gets the crates built, and yeah, he's on it.
Okay, good.
And that's it. I don't do any other social media.
Neile, this has been really fun for me. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will continue to be your #1 fan. You truly are such a joy. I cannot wait to see the finished project with Maker's Mark. I can't wait to get my hands on my signed copy of Kicking Glass, your new book. And I hope to see you again soon, maybe on tour. Thanks again. Thank you so much. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
To see more of Neile's work, again, you can follow her on Instagram at Neile Cooper. It's NeileCooper. And to see my work and what I'm doing, maybe see who will be on the podcast next, my Instagram is at Runa Glassworks, RUNAGLASSWORKS. Thank you to each and every one of you who has listened. And if you are listening to this in an audio format, don't forget to watch it as well on my YouTube channel. There, you can see us speaking as well as get a visual of all the beautiful things we speak about. And if you could also like, comment, and subscribe. I know that's such a generic thing to say at the end of a podcast, but to be honest, I'm trying to make the best content possible to connect and enrich this glass community in a way that social media can't, and in a way none of us have seen yet. See you soon.